Last time, we went on an airplane from Denver to Toronto, then we went on a GO Transit train even further into Toronto, and finally we took a VIA Rail train from Toronto all the way to Ottawa, Ontario. We have now gotten off our VIA Rail train at Ottawa Station, and now we're at Tremblay Station to board a Confederation Line train to Rideau. If you have come back from the previous two parts, welcome back. And if you're viewing this for the first time, that's okay. You're just gonna be more confused than Justin Trudeau finding out that a carbon tax wouldn't really work if you're just gonna give the tax money back to the people. This is a Line 1 or Confederation Line train. It opened for business in September of 2019, though it was opened 1 year later than it was hoped to have been opened in 2018. But I guess it's better late than never, and still, it's better than the RTDG line being 3 years late. As of the making of this video, expansions are set to open for Trim in 2025 and Moody in 2026.
Station. Station Hardman.
English and French are Canada's official languages. That's why the announcer said the name in both English and French.
Westbound to Tunney's Pasture. Direction ouest, Tunney's Pasture. Next station, Leeds. Prochaine station, Leeds.
I think that woman's carrying the kid in like a backpack or something.
Is that what that is?
Maybe. We are currently crossing the Rideau River along the Herdman Bridge. Over there is a campus for the University of Ottawa. Are dogs even allowed on this?
Yeah, the dog was on there twice. The old one was on there once.
Yeah.
The kid in the stroller was on there once. Wheelchair's on there once. The dog was on there twice.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Leeds Station. Station Leeds.
Yeah.
Doors opening. Ouverture des portes.
We don't have to bring her around the old block boys, so we'll just go. No, that's them. I think that stays. That stays closed behind closed doors. That's a little stuff, right? I didn't anything. Actually, a couple of states. Six states. they're not kidding.
Westbound to Tunney's Pasture. Direction ouest, Tunney's Pasture. Next station, U Ottawa.
Certain areas of our
Prochaine station, U Ottawa.
better Germans.
U Ottawa.
This here is the University of Ottawa. Considering the fact that this is a stop for university, I'm pretty sure it must be really popular with students. However, since we're here on March break, it's not really busy at the moment, but I'm pretty sure it was really busy during the days when, you know, it was an actual school day. One thing to note about the Confederation line is its frequencies. The Confederation line has about an 8-minute frequency each way. This makes the line really competitive with driving. You know that Ottawa is on the border.
Westbound to Tunney's
I
Pasture.
could.
Direction ouest, Tunney's Pasture. Next station, Rideau. Byward Market. Prochaine station, Rideau. Marché by.
Huh? I think so.
Rideau Station. Byward Market. Station Rideau. Marché by. Doors opening. Ouverture des portes.
After we dropped off our things, we would then head for the Canadian War Museum. The Canadian War Museum was established in 1942. It has many displays of artifacts and histories of wars that Canada and previously British North America had fought over the many centuries. When you begin the timeline of war in Canada, you'll find a lot of artifacts of wars from many old indigenous tribes. Jesus. Apparently, canoe breakers were used Apparently anchors are used as canoe breakers. Weigh anchor? More like throw anchor. The biggest fight that Canada would ultimately join was World War II. Canada would declare war against the Germans in 1939, and it would send various troops to the UK and other parts of the British Empire to help with the fight. One interesting development from here was this training bird called the Link. Even though America supplied the UK with its own supplies, Canada would also send its own supplies too. However, when supplying the UK, Canada also had to face a lot of sinkings from U-boats, and therefore new technologies in different boats had to be used in order to counter the German U-boat threat. Here's what surprised me the most. A lot of people know about the fact that the US sent a lot of Japanese people into internment camps after Pearl Harbor, but what I found most surprising was that Canada did it too. Just remember, if you think Canada wouldn't have done something that the US did, there's a good chance that Canada probably did that very thing. A lot of Canadians were staged at Hong Kong when Hong Kong was attacked and invaded by the Japanese, and the Canadians witnessed brutal atrocities committed by the Japanese soldiers in Hong Kong. However, even though the Japanese won the battle, they certainly did not win the war. Here's another interesting piece of history. An armored train from the Canadian National. And here are some of the many weapons the Canadians used along with the other Allied powers in their battle against the Axis powers. There would also be a variety of propaganda to encourage Canadians to support the war effort. Here's something that I didn't know until I went to this museum. 2 years before D-Day, America, Canada, and the UK attempted an invasion of occupied Europe at Dieppe, but it ended in complete disaster, and it would ultimately be one of the deadliest days in Canadian war history. Here's a telegraph from the Canadian Pacific sharing the unfortunate news of the loss of a loved one. Many cities, especially those in Germany, would ultimately be heavily bombed. The Canadians would also help with the bombings too. There's also mention of the iconic Spitfire, a famous airplane used by the British. And here's a tank used by the Canadian Armed Forces, as well as some artillery too. Finally, on June 6, 1944, D-Day would occur, and the Canadians would help capture Juno Beach. Some were also dropped behind enemy lines to sabotage German communications. But before Normandy could happen, the Italian campaign occurred with the Allies invading Italy. Here is a destroyed tank from the Italian campaign. And here is a display of some of the warfare during the Italian campaign, with a Canadian soldier on one side and an Italian soldier on the other. That's gotta be the shittiest game of hide and seek I'd want to play. With the help of the UK, the US, and Canada, Europe would finally be liberated. One country that was liberated was the Netherlands, and the Canadians played a huge part in the liberation of the Netherlands. This has brought an everlasting friendship between Canada and the Netherlands. Eventually, Berlin fell on May 8th, and other German forces would surrender days later. And after the atomic bombings of Japan, which resulted in Japan's surrender, World War II was over. Freedom and democracy often comes at a price, and if it weren't for Britain, America, and Canada fighting in the Second World War to protect the freedoms of many around the world, we would not have the rights and liberties that we have today. Many people, from soldiers to citizens, including people in occupied countries, would fight because they knew that the world was going to be destroyed not by those who did evil, but by those who sat and watched. And many would ultimately pay with their lives. Still, with the end of World War II, war was over, and the world would be peaceful forever after. Except, no it fucking wasn't. After World War II, the threat of communism across the world loomed, as the USSR also fought against the Axis powers, and now they were beginning to occupy the territories they fought against Germany over with communist regimes. So the US was constantly fighting against communism, even aiding rebuilding efforts in Europe and Japan as well. Their efforts were not in vain, as Canada, the UK, and several others would join their cause. A significant event that would help begin the Cold War, for Canada at least, occurred at the end of World War II when the Gozenko affair occurred. Igor Gozenko, who was a cipher clerk at the Soviet Embassy in Ottawa, defected from the USSR and brought evidence that the Soviet Union was doing espionage against the Western Allies. There would ultimately be a race to rearm, and that would prove critical because the Korean War would ultimately happen. North Korea, backed by the Soviet Union, would invade South Korea, which was backed by the Americans, and South Korea got pushed all the way back to Busan before the Allies would push back. Canada was at first reluctant, but then they sent troops into Korea. However, the Korean War would ultimately end in a stalemate, and ultimately, many more lives would be lost. Here is some of the equipment that was used during the Korean War. Eventually, though, many Canadian soldiers from the Korean War would share their experiences. Some of them are honestly just that tragic. Eventually, though, after years of stalemate, both sides would ultimately sign an armistice, but not much would change in Korea. Still, that was not it, and the Cold War would be probably one of the scariest times to live in. NATO would be established and Canada would join NATO, and the Soviets would ultimately make their own alliance, the Warsaw Pact, and made a lot of weapons, including the iconic AK-47, which is still used in various parts of the world today. Here's some more equipment used by the Canadian military during the Cold War. It includes a tank and some displays of ships from the Canadian Navy, including Canada's last aircraft carrier. There's also some equipment used by the Canadian Air Force too, including what appears to be a spy camera right here. Also included here is a display of when Canada had nuclear weapons. In 1945, the atomic bomb testing occurred in New Mexico, and it brought out the iconic "Now I Become Death, Destroyer of Worlds" quote by Oppenheimer, as well as the lesser known but still iconic "Now we are all sons of bitches" quote by Kenneth Cambridge. And as a quick side note, I kind of feel like that Kenneth Cambridge quote was a real missed opportunity for the movie Oppenheimer. Canada would be a nuclear power from 1963 to 1984, when Canada would ultimately give up its nukes. One incident where nukes were almost used for the first time since the atomic bombings of Japan was the Cuban Missile Crisis. The crisis would ultimately last for 13 days before the US and USSR reached an agreement where the US would pull nukes out of Turkey in exchange for the USSR pulling nukes out of Cuba. Eventually, though, Canada would start becoming involved in many peacekeeping missions, but a lot of those peacekeeping missions were often really hard to do, if not impossible. After many years, though, several peace movements began to spring up across Canada, including by Therese Casgrain, a advocate for social reform and women's rights. Eventually, many more peace movements would spring up, and right here is a quote from the Beatles. The Cold War would ultimately be a way that a lot of pop culture would come out, especially of blockbuster movies, songs, TV, you name it. Here's a small segment about Canada during the time of Pierre Elliot Trudeau, not Justin Trudeau, but his father. During this time, he would invoke the War Measures Act after a lot of terrorist attacks by separatists. Eventually, with Mikhail Gorbachev becoming the leader of the USSR, the Cold War would ultimately gradually come to an end as the USSR would ultimately dissolve. And it doesn't end at the Cold War either. There was the Gulf War in 1990 and 91, where Canada would help the rest of the world jump on Iraq to liberate Kuwait from the forces of Saddam Hussein, after he decided that it was a good idea to invade and occupy Kuwait for its money. He failed in the end, to which he decided that the best course of action now that the entire world literally was turned against him was to burn billions of dollars worth of oil in a scorched earth tactic, which would cause a recession and also kinda single-handedly kill Japan's population growth. Regardless, he lost the Gulf War and Canada was one of the victors. Then there was the horrific Yugoslav wars, which Canada would ultimately get involved in with both peacekeeping missions and eventually the bombing of Yugoslavia in 1999. Then there were all the many wars in the Middle East since the 2000s. And finally, some texts saying that Canada's history is still ongoing. Yeah? Here's a section of the museum that had a lot of tanks and artillery. And so many tanks. However, at this point, we were short on time. There's a lot more to this museum that I am not covering in this video, but if you ever go to Ottawa, check out this museum. It'll be worth a visit.
Who the first person was that got in a cannon and was the first person shot out of a cannon. Hey, let me just hop on in there and stand on top of that thing and see how it goes.
Probably did not end well.
This thing is crazy.
Yeah.
Get the inside of it.
Yeah, we're out of here.
I know it's a very cool place, but...
Oh, we just found this part.
You did?
Yeah, moments ago.
Yeah. So many tanks and so much artillery.
This is only 8% of our collection. There's more under us.
Under?
Wow.
Thanks so much.
No problem.
You have a good day.
You do?
It's now May 12th, and I'm again in Ottawa. Here are the Rideau Canal locks. Guess that's where all the people who represent parts of Canada come to yell at each other. And I believe that there is the Canadian Senate building. It used to be Ottawa Union Station, which served the Grand Trunk Railway before it became Canadian National, Canadian Pacific, and probably New York Central too, since a line from New York Central once came up here from New York State. However, Ottawa Union Station has since been replaced with the current VIA station. Here is the Centennial flame in front of the Canadian Parliament. It was put up in 1967 to celebrate 100 years of the Canadian Confederation. Wow, this water is actually somewhat warm. That one says 1870, 1867. However, apart from the War Museum, there's another place in Ottawa that I really wanted to go to. Also, there was this one thing in chalk that I saw, and I don't know what it could have been, but it does state, Wellington Street Regular Standing for Freedom for All Canadians Everywhere 2024. Thank you for holding the line. There was also a Canadian flag that was colored in between a rainbow, so it could have been anything, perhaps LGBTQ plus support, or it could have been just the fact that a lot of Canadians hate their current Prime Minister, and that there was probably a protest here before I made the trip. There's mostly a good chance that he's done in 2025. When the next Canadian federal election occurs. That is, if Canadians can remember to vote and have the motivation to vote. Though, but hey, I think you got this, Canadians. Hopefully. There was also this statue here too. Anyways, after that, I went over to the Canada Science and Technology Museum, and right in the entrance there was a sign saying, "Oh crap," relating to human waste. If this were America, then the Parent Teachers Association would be crying more than babies, and getting brain aneurysms, as well as cardiac arrests and the like seeing this. Anyways, this is the Canada Science and Technology Museum. It is located on the southeastern side of Ottawa and contains a lot of things relating to technology and transportation in Canada, such as automobiles and a lot of rafting too. This pet project here is what I found to be the most cool. Over there are some steam engines. We'll get back to them in a bit. There are also these snowmobiles, which is kind of a necessity in some of the most rural parts of Canada. These cars here, like this old 1950s or 60s car, this one that looks like a Model T, and this thing right here. There were also these TVs here, which I think were from the... Okay, I lied to you. We're actually doing that now. Low tier god now lightning meme goes into the video here. This is a Canadian National U for a Confederation or Northern type, built by the Montreal Locomotive Works in 1936. And if you think that sounds like a Canadian version of Baldwin Locomotive Works, you're incorrect, as Montreal Locomotive Works was a Canadian subsidiary of Alco, which produced the big boy. This locomotive was streamlined and it pulled the 1939 Royal train and was on display at the 1939 New York World's Fair. Yes, the same World's Fair that PRR 6100 went to. Though its journey was a little less of a nightmare than 6100's, though if you want to know, watch Andrew Alabama's video on 6100 please, I don't have time to explain. The 6400 was also inspiration for Vinny from The Great Race. A subclass for these for the Grand Trunk were also built, but they're all history now.
Oh my god. It's so small. I'm so small compared to this locomotive.
Anyways, this other locomotive is Campac 3100. It was built in 1928 by the Canadian Pacific's own Angus shops in Montreal, and was one of only two 484 type locomotives that CP Rail ever rostered. Her sister 3101 is also still around and is in Regina, Saskatchewan. At one time, there was thought that 3101 was going to be restored to service by Canadian Pacific, as in 2007, a Campac survey team visited 3101 to see if it could have been restored to service, likely also alongside the Empress 2816. However, no concrete action was taken. Either the team determined that a restoration would have been too costly, the locomotive was in bad shape, and to be fair, from the pictures I could see why, or before they were about to make a decision on 3101, that man became the head of CP Rail and he put the Empress out of service, which remained until 2023. It's unclear what may happen to 3101 now, even now that CP Rail has brought 2816 back. Maybe 3101 will get a second chance now that the CP Rail Steam program is back on, but only time will tell. Next to 3100 is Campac Royal Hudson 2858. The NYC Hudsons may be history, but the Hudsons of Canadian Pacific are still with us. This one in particular, 2858, was built in 1938 and was a sister to 2850, who pulled the 1939 Royal train with King George VI and Queen Elizabeth. No, not that one, the other one. And no, Americans, this isn't the same King George as the one who is the reason why America exists today. An interesting fact about the King George VI was that he was a bit of a rail buff, or in our terms, a rail fan. Because of that, rather than riding in the carriages, the king would try to ride in the cab of the locomotive leading the royal train, 2850, whenever he could. And in the end, impressed by the performance of 2850, the king gave Canadian Pacific permission to use the term Royal Hudson for streamlined locomotives of the Canadian Pacific, including the one here in this museum, 2858. The actual engine that pulled the Royal train is still around, but it's not in this museum, it's in Quebec. The Royal Hudsons were classified as H1C, H1D, and H1E. The non-streamlined Hudsons were H1As and H1Bs. 4 Royal Hudsons exist: 2839, 2850, 2858, and 2860. Only one non-streamlined Hudson from the Canadian Pacific survives today, and that's the Empress 2816.
This 3100 is here at the Canada Science and Technology Museum in Ottawa, Canada. It also has a sister, 3101, which is also preserved, though I don't exactly know where, but here's 3100.
Often with engines that have accessible cabs in museums, this one was full of children. The YouTuber's only weakness. Luckily for me though, my weakness is not children. It's anime lollies. Oh crap, I mean for head patting. Not, it wasn't sexual, I mean for head patting. No, is here and somebody forgot to take their Second Amendment with them!
Here you go. Ready, alright, ready, also! Yeah. Severa.
Montreal Locomotive Works. That was Canada's version of Alco. I'm holding this camera above my head. This will need some quick thinking. What the? Dang it. But that was fun at least.
Nice. Perfect.
Hey guys, I'm back from jail. Anyways, here is some equipment that was near a siding that was outside of the museum, but out of sight. Some of these tracks used to connect to an old CN spur, but that was torn up sometime between 2019 and... Okay, let's continue on with the video. Here is CN 6200. It is a prototype for the U2G subclass of Confederation locomotives. You may recognize this type because I also covered 6200's sister, 6213, in a previous part. I don't know if the crime rate is low in the area, if she's protected by a gate at night, or if she's under sniper rifle protection, but that does not look like a good way to preserve a engine on static display.
Oh, you got me fucking.
Also, some shots are not worth getting your slip-on stuck in mud. Just a heads up. I then reunited with Dad, checked out the hotel we were staying at, and had lunch. After lunch, we would head back to the Rideau train station and head back to Tremblay to board another VIA Rail train for Montreal.
Please stand away from the platform edge.
You want me to take your luggage?
Attention.
I'll take it.
Le train en direction est
If you
vers la
want to take it,
station
you
Blair
want
approche.
to take it?
Éloignez-vous du bord
Yes,
du
I
quai.
do.
Doors opening. Ouverture des portes. Doors closing. Fermeture des portes. Eastbound, Blair. Direction Est, Blair. Next station, New Ottawa. Prochaine station, New Ottawa. New Ottawa Station. Station du Ottawa. Doors opening. Ouverture des portes. Doors closing. Fermeture. Fermeture des portes. Eastbound to Blair. Direction Est, Blair. Next station, please.
Yeah, that is east.
Please station. Station, please. Doors opening. Ouverture des portes. Doors closing. Fermeture des portes. Eastbound to Blair. Direction Est, Blair. Next station, Burton. Prochaine station, Burton. Hartman Station. Station Hartman. Doors opening. Ouverture des portes. Doors closing. Fermeture des portes. Eastbound to Blair. Direction Est, Blair. Next station, Tremblay. VIA Rail. Prochaine station, Tremblay. VIA Rail.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
We're here early enough. You're gonna send in the upgrade for us. I'm gonna get mine.
I never got any email with no
Doesn't have to go to county. Talk to people. You're smart, right? Talk to people. Talk to the people. We just need to talk to the people. What were we watching last night?
Huh?
We were watching what movie last night? Madagascar.
Yeah.
Wait for the people. Just talk to the people.
Where's the people? Who wipes? Oy vey, everybody. Oy vey! Yeah, I still think the actors were having so much fun voicing their respective characters in Madagascar.
The voice actors?
Yes.
This is us.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I saw the VIA trains.
Tremblay Station. VIA Rail. Station Tremblay. VIA Rail.
We would then get off our Confederation Line train and head to the station. And at the station, I noticed some scale models of CN and CP rail steam engines, and I decided to take some photos of them because, well, who doesn't like steam engines?
Yeah, these look like live steamer. That one looked like a live steamer model.
And there's a ministry of coffee here. There's a ministry of everything these days. We're now in the business lounge of the station. Initially for the trip, I had planned for the segment to Montreal to just be in economy class, but I was suggested by the option to upgrade to business class. For a while I got indecisive. I even flipped a coin, which landed on a side that I picked as don't upgrade to business class. But then after a few minutes, I changed my mind and decided to have Dad and I be upgraded for business class, which got us into the business class lobby. So, here we are. With this, I recorded a TV that was in the VIA Rail Lounge, and that is pretty much gonna get me into some trouble with copyright infringement. And speaking of their new fleet... Oh shoot, it's not that one. Wrong one. That is the older fleet that consists of the Genesis engines and some of the old Bud cars, because Bud don't break, FYI. Oh yeah, it's now leaving the station. So I get to talk about VIA Rail's new fleet. Anyways, though that engine and those coaches right there are brand new train sets VIA Rail ordered from Siemens. Much like Brightline in Florida, these train sets consist of a streamlined Siemens Charger engine and 5 Siemens Venture coaches. Unlike Brightline though, these train sets have one charger on one end and a cab car on the other, which count as a 5th passenger car. But the train sets could have the potential to be expanded in the future, even if there's one engine producing 40 to 100 horsepower.
I hear charger, don't get charged and shit. Oh, hello again, 911.
The smoker that pulled the train that we were on the previous day arrives at the station. But the train that the smoker is pulling is likely scheduled for later in the day, and we're actually going to get on the train that's pulled by the charger.
Yes. P42 DC 911.
Should we go pat it on the back? Good job.
If we were on the right track, then yes.
Hard-working train.
For now, all I'd say is that he was a really useful engine, and that he helped us take our train to our destination.
It is now time to board the train. Honestly, going up this ramp, it reminded me of Denver Union Station before Denver Union Station was rebuilt.
Yeah, car
VIA
one.
Rail ordered 32 of these train sets back in December of 2018. It was around the same time that Amtrak also purchased several long-distance chargers to replace their Genesis fleet.
Car one.
These sets entered service in late 2022, and at the time of making the trip, there were about 9 of them in service. At the time of recording this, half of the fleet of Siemens chargers and ventures for VIA Rail has entered service. The remaining half is on its way, although in a different livery. Here is the business class venture car. The previous day, we rode on the very old in business class. And now, we're riding the very new in business class.
Nice.
A train with Bud cars then goes to the station. There is speculation that the Bud car sets, as well as some of the LRC sets with some of the P42s and F40s, could head to the Sudbury White River train, but as of now, only time will tell. 911 then passes by us, facing the other way.
That was the train we saw earlier. Also, I think it's safe to assume that at this point, I'll have ridden behind one of each of VIA Rail's active locomotives as of 2024. The F40PH, the P42 DC, and now the SCV42.
Okay.
And that's even without living in Canada.
Before we left, a Siemens set with the cab car leading enters the station. And so, the time of our departure, 2:20, comes. We're about to leave, and the train's delayed. There were some slight issues with the engine, and that delayed us by about 25 minutes. But new technology will have its issues one way or another. Something that people who hate the chargers and see a win every time a charger has an issue do not understand. Our train leaves at around 2:45 p.m. We're going to be in Montreal in about 2 hours from now.
Jointed rail. Jointed rail. That it would make that sound, but sometimes trains can have flat spots which can make the sound going yeah. If it gets bad enough. Yeah, it gets bad enough. Okay, maybe that was just a jointed rail.
Two thumbs up.
We all good.
Your attention please, though we are on the move, we're ready to go. We would like to wish you good afternoon everyone. My name is Maud and I'm your service manager on board today. On behalf of VIA Rail Canal and the entire crew, welcome aboard train number 26 en route to Montreal Central Station and Quebec City Gare du Palais, with stops at Alexandria, Dorval, Montreal Central Station, Saint-Lambert, Saint-Hyacinthe, Drummondville, Charny, Sainte-Foy, and our final destination, Quebec City Gare du Palais. Our onboard crew will tend to your safety and well-being. We invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy your journey with us. Please listen carefully to these following safety announcements. And we would like to also apologize for our late departure in Ottawa Station. I will give an update on the schedule shortly. Thank you. Donc, comme vous pouvez le voir, nous avons décollé d'Ottawa. Bonjour à tous, je suis Maud et je suis votre directrice des services aujourd'hui. Au nom de VIA Rail Canada et de tous les membres de l'équipe, je vous souhaite la bienvenue à bord du train numéro 26 à destination de Montréal, Gare Centrale et Québec, la Gare du Palais, qui s'arrêtera également à Alexandria, Dorval, Montréal, Saint-Lambert, Saint-Hyacinthe, Drummondville, Charny, Sainte-Foy et notre destination finale, Québec, la Gare du Palais. Notre personnel veille à votre sécurité et votre bien-être. Nous vous invitons à relaxer et à profiter pleinement de votre voyage avec nous. Veuillez écouter attentivement ces importants messages de sécurité qui suivront. Nous tenons également à nous excuser pour ce départ tardif de la gare d'Ottawa. Je vais vous faire une mise à jour sur l'horaire un peu plus tard. Merci et bon voyage.
For your safety, please familiarize yourself with the emergency features of your car by reading the pamphlet in the seat pocket in front of you and by locating the nearest emergency exits. When walking down the aisle, we recommend that you hold on to the grab handles on the seats.
Also, before the train departed, an attendant served me this glass of orange juice,
Please occupy the car
which I
and
like
seats shown on your boarding
because
pass.
I really like orange juice.
All trains and station platforms are smoke-free environments. The use of electronic cigarettes is also forbidden. Please note that unsafe or disrespectful behavior towards passengers or crew members will not be tolerated, and that the consumption of personal alcoholic beverages is prohibited.
Blah, 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 yada, 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 etc., 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 announcements this, announcements that. Now that we're out of Ottawa, it's mostly straight out running, and we're going to be going pretty quickly by farmlands.
locomotives. Like the train, like the locomotive was saying, this isn't even my final horn form. Looks like a lot more people in here actually look like they're traveling for business. Also, I'm going to be honest. When I first thought of business class, I thought that meant if you work for a business class seat on a plane or a train, that they'd ask you what kind of business you work for, or at least try and confirm that you actually work for a business. Yeah, now that I think that that's kind of ridiculous, but it's nice to know that business class isn't just for people with business. Cantilever. Like a rare museum.
White wine, red wine, water, sparkling water.
Just below it.
That's it. Here.
Oh, that one had a mechanical bell.
And for you?
Huh?
Wine?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Red or white?
Red, please.
We were served lunch. My dad and I got the same thing for lunch, and I also got a glass of wine. Since we weren't in America, I was at the legal drinking age in Canada. And at this point, the feds in America cannot stop me from exercising my new right and liberty to drink alcohol under 21. By the way, I do not support underage drinking, and I am not encouraging underage drinking. Please do not fire me if you're my employer. Here's the lunch and the wine glass that I had. Here we arrive at our first stop on our way to Montreal, Alexandria. We would be here for about a minute or two.
I don't see anything different.
Oh, it's because I don't know your indicators about the drive up on the screen. Because I don't use that camera.
No, what's the speed?
Does it come down?
Thought it looked like something that would come down.
Privacy.
Oh. Now I know.
Privacy is important in business, right?
Right. Don't worry, we have some time before Montreal. So.
No, I'm not going to complete it right now.
By the way, if you heard that, yeah, we have been pronouncing Montreal incorrectly for a long time already. The actual pronunciation is Montreal, if you're French or French Canadian anyways.
Just like the super
I entered the washroom on board the venture car, and it looked pretty nice and pretty modern. Though I have a feeling that looking at the toilet, people are going to have a lot of PTSD attacks.
I'm % sure that some 8-year-old is going to make a comment saying that. Anyways, this is a toilet on the Siemens Venture. At least the bathroom. Well, in here they call it a washroom.
We are now passing Casselman. There is a stop for VIA Rail trains in this town, but this train is not going to stop here. As a bit of a side note, that is a glitch in the scheduling system, and we would not actually stop in Coteau.
We passed a crossing that had a mechanical bell on it. Those are the older bells that go that are rounded. Good morning.
We cross over CP Rail's Winchester subdivision here at Limoges. After going over the diamond, we would get up to speed again. While these trains can go 125 miles per hour, we're limited to 93 miles per hour approximately. While this route may become part of the proposed high-frequency rail corridor from Toronto to Quebec City, this one YouTube video does make a suggestion to make the corridor go from Ottawa to Montreal first, and then expand if successful. Though part of that involves routing onto CP rail trackage, While CP Rail is better at hosting passenger trains in America, they're a bit of a different story in Canada. But maybe they're getting a little less icy to Canadian passenger trains, and people in Canada just aren't trying to get CP Rail into passenger train negotiations.
All personal belongings before leaving the train.
The crew of this CN train, one was asleep and the other one probably no, well, one of them may have been asleep while the other one may have had a heart attack, stroke, or diabetic reaction and probably became incapacitated or died before the collision. Yeah. Sad.
We would then join the CN Rail main line at Coteau. If one of these switchers is unusual, tell me. Those cab windows look different.
No, maybe we're just coming up on Coteau, or there will, or maybe that's an error with the signage.
It was the latter, as it turned out. I speaked with one of the crew members.
In or out of Coteau? That's what thought.
And then the arrow doesn't represent where you are.
Yes. Yeah, the arrow name just means that the train is
In between.
two cities. categorize it as mostly forest with the farmlands, highways, and railways in between. Yeah. Pretty big lumber industry up in the mountains. Top speed 150. No, we're no longer at top speed.
What are you looking at?
Oh,
look at that. I didn't see that.
Anyways, what is 150 multiplied by 0.62? 93 miles per hour.
As fast as that zero.
At Dorion, we reach EXO territory. EXO is Montreal's commuter rail service, which serves the suburbs in and around Montreal. We also will get alongside the CP Rail mainline and follow it until outside of Montreal.
I haven't looked on the map. I don't know if this is St. I'm not sure if that was the St. Lawrence. No, I can solve them. But I don't think that was St. Lawrence. Oh. It's between the Lake of Two Mountains and Lake St. Louis.
Votre attention s'il vous plaît. Nous ferons un arrêt à Dorval d'environ 10 minutes. Your attention, please. We'll be stopping in Dorval in approximately 10 minutes.
Other than that, like, there's
Right here, we stop at Dorval, where there are connections to Montreal Trudeau International Airport. And no, it's not named after the current Trudeau, it was named after his dad. This is so far the closest you can get to Trudeau without airport without needing a car or a bus. And the frequencies for EXO aren't really good as of now. But in 2027, there will finally be a rail connection to Trudeau Airport in the form of the Reseau Express Metropolitan. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. With a direct connection onto the REM's main rail line.
Your attention, please. We've just arrived at Dorval. Last call for Dorval.
Okay, so that's how it was in Drummondville in the suite that I stayed in.
Here we go.
Yeah, like the shower was right beside the bed, like in glass. And I mean, I guess if you're with your significant other, it's okay. Yeah. Depending with who. So, is there a lot around the hotel, or like what's it like? What? No, listen, when you have a car, it's
After departing Dorval, we see a Canadian Pacific freight train, though now Canadian Pacific is CPKC. Also, as a bit of a side note to CPKC, use this for the livery and this for the logo, please.
What floor are you on? Are you on the top? Are you on the top floor?
That engine over there, 8612, is an AC 4400 CW. It is one of the many CP Rail AC 4400 CWs that are on the roster but have not been rebuilt into CWMs and renumbered. Also, as a side note, the high number boards on the CWMs make them look so weird in the CP Rail livery.
We gotta be there for 9 o'clock, so I'd say leave at like, depending how far it is, we'll probably leave at like 8:30. Okay. Enjoy your night. We'll talk later. Take care. Thanks. Ciao. Bye.
Une fois les changements de fourniture et d'équipage effectués. Merci beaucoup et bonne fin de journée. Your attention, please. We will be arriving at Montreal Central Station. Our next stop in approximately 10 minutes. For your safety, we ask that you remain seated until the train comes to a complete stop in the terminal. Please be sure to retrieve all personal belongings before leaving the train. Please mind the gap between the train and the platform while exiting, and walk in the middle of the platform away from the yellow line. On behalf of VIA Rail and the entire crew, it has been a pleasure having you on board with us today, and we apologize for this late arrival in Montreal. We look forward to serving you again soon. For passengers continuing their trip with us to St. Lambert, Saint-Hyacinthe, Drummondville, Charny, Sainte-Foy, and Quebec City Gare du Palais, we ask you to please remain on board and please stay seated. The train will depart Montreal as soon as the change of furniture and crew is done. Thank you once again and have a good evening.
No problem with the delay.
If you heard the announcement, you'd note that the train isn't actually terminating at Montreal, but continuing all the way to Quebec City. The train, though, will be in Montreal a lot longer for a crew change and the like.
That section's kind of out of place.
An EXO train passes by us. EXO has a variety of lines that radiate out of both Montreal Gare Centrale, or Central Station, and Lucien and Lallier, which used to be CP Rail's terminus at Montreal. Also on the train is an ALP 45 DP. They're also used on NJ Transit. Now we're outside of Gare Centrale, or Central Station, where this train will make its Montreal stop. There's also a yard for CN here, and I almost lost my crap when I saw that there was an Illinois Central unit in the yard.
Sorry.
I don't think Dad was pleased with that reaction. In that line of grain hoppers is an old Government of Canada hopper, but this video here explains it better than me. Also, here's a Grunk caboose. The line over there is a brand new Reseau Express Metropolitan, which opened on July 31st, 2023. Almost a year at this point. Jesus Christ, I'm old. There are also plans to expand the REM that are being put in place. At one point, there were plans for a REM de l'Est until the NIMBYs stopped it because they didn't like nice things being built. Motherfuckers stopped a transit expansion. Can't have shit in North America. But the area where REM de l'Est would have gone is still something planners want to put transit in, so time will tell if or when that eventually happens.
Buddy, is he coming?
Yeah, there's a train coming. Passing through anyways. That's a REM train up there. I can't believe that they named a a system in Montreal after a Reseau character. But I don't hate it.
A VIA train with odd coaches passes by next to us. Those are the Renaissance cars. They were originally constructed for a night train through the Channel Tunnel, but that project got scrapped. VIA purchased these cars and refurbished them. They were used for corridor services until they got kicked off the corridor trains last May, but they are still used for the ocean.
VIA Rail 6418.
We are now arriving at Central Station, or Gare Centrale. It is a station that serves as both a stopping point and a terminus for various corridor trains, as well as the terminus for Amtrak's Adirondack and VIA Rail's Ocean. Until 1990, it used to be the terminus for VIA Rail's original Canadian, and until 1994, it used to be the terminus for VIA Rail's Atlantic, which also used to be operated by CP Rail. Whether the new long-distance car order that VIA Rail has planned will revive both services or any services is up to debate, but hopefully something good will come out of it.
$64.39. There unfortunately isn't a 6400 anymore since it got destroyed in a wreck.
Pour votre sécurité, nous vous demandons de rester assis jusqu'à ce que le train s'immobilise complètement. N'oubliez pas de récupérer tous vos effets personnels avant de quitter le train.
We are now at Montreal and our trip is at an end. I honestly did want to record the train leaving when it did, but the staff did not allow me to.
And girls and everyone else, this has been the VIA train that we were on.
Later on, we would have dinner at this really good place, as well as dessert too. I would then climb up Montreal, something that I had wanted to do the previous time I went to Montreal, but I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't do much else after that. Although, I did go to this one really good Chinese place, and had a crepe later on. I genuinely did consider parting with Dad after having the crepe and going onto the metro, but I didn't do that because by that point Dad seemed tired and I wanted to take him back to the hotel we were staying at. And by the time we got back, I was tired too, and so I wasn't able to make it on the metro. Will I come back to Montreal someday? Perhaps. Will I go on the metro if I do? Absolutely. For now, it's time to head back to the States. This is a CN train right there on our way to Montreal Trudeau Airport, and I swear it had a Canadian Cap -9 on it. Our flight that will get us close to Denver will be operated by an Airbus A220, or before Boeing threw a hissy fit over Bombardier selling planes to Delta, the C series. Unfortunately, because of Boeing throwing that hissy fit, the C series program was partially purchased by Airbus and renamed the A220. Sadly though, Bombardier is now out of that program. Now, until the previous day, our flight would have been a direct flight to Denver, but a snowstorm in Denver had that flight cancelled. We were redirected to a connecting flight in the place with the worst kind of sports fans. Boston.
Pour commencer, connectez-vous au réseau AC Wi-Fi, puis rendez-vous à l'adresse aircanadawifi.com. Veuillez noter que les applications vocales ne sont pas permises. Veuillez redresser le dossier de votre siège, ranger votre tablette et boucler votre ceinture. Les effets personnels et les gros appareils électroniques comme les ordinateurs portatifs doivent être rangés de façon sécuritaire et les appareils électroniques portatifs devraient être réglés en mode avion jusqu'à l'annonce à ce sujet à l'arrivée. La réglementation et la transportation sécurité administration des États-Unis interdit aux passagers de se rassembler dans toute zone dans la cabine, y compris près des toilettes et des offices. Welcome aboard the Air Canada flight. My name is Kimberly and I'll be your service director on today's flight. With service to Boston, we're pleased to be of service in English and French. As a special thank you to our Plan members, we're offering free in-flight texting sponsored by Dell. To get started, join the AC Wi-Fi network and visit aircanadawifi.com. Please note voice applications are not permitted in flight. Please ensure your seatback and tray table are bright and that your seatbelt is fastened. Aisles and exits must be free of all baggage. Larger electronic devices such as laptop computers must be safely stowed, and portable electronic devices should be set to airplane mode until an announcement upon arrival. U.S. regulations prohibits passengers from assembling in any area of the cabin, including around lavatory and galley areas. Votre sécurité est notre priorité. Veuillez prendre le temps de regarder notre vidéo sur les mesures de sécurité. Les écouteurs branchés à un appareil électronique portatif doivent maintenant être retirés. Veuillez noter que les enseignes de sortie comprennent un symbole vert. Les flèches indiquent la direction à suivre pour se rendre à l'issue. Pour plus d'informations, veuillez consulter la carte des mesures de sécurité dans la pochette de votre siège ou dans le porte-revue. And your safety is our top priority. Please take a moment to watch our safety procedures video. At this time, headsets connected to our portable electronic device must be removed. Please note that the exit signs on this aircraft are identified by a green symbol. The arrows indicate the direction to the exit. If you need additional information, please refer to the safety features card located in your seat pocket or magazine rack.
Bienvenue à bord d'Air Canada.
For your safety and comfort.
Blah, blah, blah. Instructions, instructions, instructions. Safety this, safety that. Blah, 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 blah.
Joignez-vous à nous et prenez part à la magie.
Anyways, here's a plane from Air Canada's rival, Air Transat. Over there is an Air Transat A330 as well as an A320. The A330s are usually used on Air Transat's long-haul flights that can sometimes go across the ocean.
It looks like the shoulder A330, A330-200. Saw this damn video.
Our plane would then go into de-icing before we would take off for Boston. After de-icing, we'd head for the runway and prepare to take off.
d'emboucler votre ceinture en tout à bord du vol aujourd'hui. Et conformément à la réglementation fédérale, il est interdit de fumer, de vapoter ou d'utiliser les cigarettes électroniques, tout comme il est interdit de consommer votre propre alcool, y compris l'alcool acheté à la boutique hors taxe ou tout produit du cannabis. Merci d'avoir choisi Air Canada et bon vol. You're encouraged to wear your seatbelt at all times during today's flight.
We are now into the sky and headed for Boston. We'd be there in about an hour or so.
Cannabis products or drink your own alcohol. This includes any items purchased at duty free. Thank you for choosing Air Canada and enjoy your flight.
We enjoyed the flight, not the connection. Also, I'm gonna briefly commit copyright infringement and show you this one movie I watched during the flight. If you can guess what it is, I'll pin you in the comment section below. We're now in the skies above Boston and about to land. We landed at Boston, and now it'll be another couple of hours before we get on a connecting flight back to Denver. Unfortunately, it would be a while before we would get on a connecting flight to Denver because the first tickets for our connecting flight got invalidated and we missed that flight. And so my dad had to deal with constant crap from Air Canada trying to get a new ticket for another United flight since Air Canada is in the same airline alliance as United.
The local time is 9:28 a.m. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened and your baggage stowed until the seatbelt sign has been turned off. Smoking is not permitted. Airplane mode may now be turned off. Before leaving the aircraft, please check to ensure you have all of your electronic devices. Thank you for choosing Air Canada, member of Star Alliance, for your travels today. We hope that you had a pleasant flight and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Have a good day, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Eventually, though, we would get on our flight back to Denver. Our flight is operated with a Boeing 737 MAX. At this point, there were a lot of concerns over even flying on a Boeing airplane, but at this point, considering all the crap that I had to deal with my dad, I think that our flight being a Boeing airplane was the least of my concerns.
Oh my god, it is so small!
Finally, we left Boston. We won't come back to Boston until August, though. Struggling through the ice-cold wind, we would finally be ready to land in Denver. With us landing in Denver, we are now home free.
First to welcome you to Denver. Local time is 6:27. The taxi for the next few minutes. The use of your cellular phones in transit mode is now permitted. We do ask please remain seated with your seatbelt securely fastened. All carrying items stowed into the aircraft does come to a complete and final stop at the gate. The captain has turned off past the seatbelt sign. At that time, please remember to check around your seating areas, seat back pockets, overhead bins for any and all belongings you may have brought on board when boarding this afternoon in Boston. Take care when opening the bins. Contents to a tendency of shifting during landing. Once inside the terminal building, connect to get information being provided by information signs airport monitors. You can also utilize the United app on your smartphone. We're coming into the B concourse. B is in Bravo, gate number 48. If you have bags to claim tonight, it's going to be carousel number 17. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about 30 minutes behind schedule. We were due in at 6:05. They estimate us into the gate at 6:34 p.m. There were about 50 or so, 45, 50 passengers with connections less than 45 minutes from now. If you could please let these passengers try to get off the aircraft first to attempt to make their connection, we'd appreciate that. Your fellow passengers would appreciate that. On behalf of United, the Star Alliance Network, most importantly, the entire Boston-based flight crew, thank you very much for choosing to fly with us. We look forward to serving you in a future United pleasure travel plans will permit. Wish everyone here a very pleasant stay in Denver or the city or country of your final destination. Good night.
Yeah, I'm right here, Dad.
With us getting on the people mover, we got to a gate where Mom was waiting to pick us up, who took us home.
I'm right here, Did Pops.
The doors are closing. Please keep clear and hold on for departure to all A gates. Exit here for all A gates.
This is the gate for
Please
literally every
watch
other
your
airline
step.
besides United and Southwest. Sorry.
The doors are closing. Please keep clear and hold on for departure to terminal, ground transportation, and baggage
Doesn't
claim.
matter.
Welcome to Denver. This is Mayor Mike Johnston. Whether you are planning on hitting the slopes or seeing one of our championship sports teams or snuggling up in one of our new Michelin star restaurants, we want to welcome you home to Denver, the world's premier winter playground.
Also, please read that email I sent to your staff, Mike
Hold on,
Johnston.
please. We are approaching the terminal, ground transportation, and baggage claim.
Support RTD light
This
rail
is the terminal.
and trains
All
more.
passengers, please exit and follow signs to ground transportation and baggage claim. Please watch your step.
Yep,
All
I'm watching
passengers,
my
please
step.
exit.
With this, our journey to Canada has now been concluded. This was my first international trip in 2 years, and now that I've completed that trip, I still have 2 more spring breaks at college before I graduate. Where will I go for spring break next year? Another part of the States? Back to Canada? Down to Mexico? Travel to Colombia? France? Japan? The UK? Italy? I don't know as of the making of this video, but if and when it happens, I will tell you guys all about it. Even so, I hope all of you enjoyed these 3 videos, and to everyone watching this, especially any Canadians, Happy Canada Day!
Please stand clear doors.
Whoa! Anywhere!
Also, since I'm completing this at the very last minute, please watch this and share it with others, please.